Now back to our regular scheduled complaining about games and Ubisoft being a dumb company, but hey, we got to give the devil its due on this one, right? So let's talk about Assassin's Creed. It is officially, now that we're how many months out from release? Okay, just about. I think it just crossed over, what would that be? 4 months. 4 months since its release, and it has officially hit 5 million players. Oh, good. 5 million assassins, actually, if we're going to use their nomenclature. 2 billion stealth kills, 1 billion kilometers traveled, 38 million animals petted, and still you pause to take in the view. Yeah, because that's one thing that I've said, because when I watched a lot of the gameplay that was going on at the time, a lot of the boring early game stuff, at least some of the foliage looked nice. Some of the vistas were rather pretty, but honestly, like, you put that much money into a game, it probably should look nice. But outside of that, once you get out of your own way staring at digital assets, you're just left with a really, really, really bland, boring, bad game. But yes, I don't even need to scroll down to the replies for you to already know what's being asked and what's being said down there. Okay, cool. You want to tell us how many players there are, how many sales are there? And it's so funny. They're never going to tell you that, but it's very interesting, right? Because, okay, cool. You have 5 million cumulative players. That's across Ubisoft Connect. That's across Xbox and PlayStation. But then it's also like the lion's share, as we have heard time and time again, was all on Steam. Okay, the PC sales, a lot of them ended up going to Steam. Okay. And as such, that's going to be the best metric to see how well the game is still doing, okay? And, well, you take a look at it, and it's 2,500 players for a game of this import. Not great, okay? But, hey, let's be fair, okay? I'll refresh it. It's been a minute since I pulled. Okay, 2,500 even. That's interesting in a 5,100 player peak, but this is, of course, like middle of the week, right? Okay, but 64,825 concurrent players on launch. I was shocked at the time, because I would have thought, just out of sheer name recognition and just normies, and especially the way they've comported themselves, especially at the Hollywood box office with the most recent releases, I would have thought that, yeah, this game probably should have hit over 100,000 concurrent on Steam, at least 80, at least the 90, somewhere in that area. But the fact that it couldn't even crack 70, let alone 65,000 concurrent players, I was legitimately shocked at the time when that happened. But the one thing that is shocking here is that there was a little bit of an uptick. I guess that was from the summer sale. That's about the only thing that could possibly ring any bells for me, saving it from the absolute dumpster that it was in beforehand, hitting lows of 2,300. But don't worry, guys, okay? It's got its numbers. Don't have to worry about that. And hey, if you're one of those few people that are still hanging on beyond all hope, if you think that Ubisoft can turn this around, that Shadows will go ahead and become a great game, it's kind of like it could end up being the Unity for a new generation, right? How that was a buggy disaster upon launch, but now, a few years later, it's one of the better classic Assassin's Creeds that you can go back to and play and enjoy. And so, as you can see, like that final line right there, Naue and Yasuke's journey continues, updates coming this week. Well, apparently, there's going to be a new round of DLC, which we've heard talked about before, because this was the rumored DLC that was coming out, that if you pre-ordered the game, I think you ended up getting early access, or you got it for free, or it was involved in your purchase. It was something like that. But Assassin's Creed Shadows Claws of Awaji DLC is confirmed for release by September. Okay, cool. So it's coming out soon-ish during Ubisoft's latest earnings call, which, oh boy, what an elucidating earnings call that was. Now, I got more on this coming tomorrow, because there was a whole bunch of scuttle, and it wasn't just specifically centered on Assassin's Creed. There's just one thing that I wanted to hone in on in this video, and, well, we're going to do that in a little bit. But back to this earnings report. Ubisoft mentioned that Assassin's Creed Shadows has performed in line with expectations, and revealed that the game had 5 million players recently. They are currently working on enhancing the player experience. Yeah, like, are you going to do it the same way that you did to Star Wars Outlaws? It's not so much like fixing the stealth mechanics, how you could just immediately become a ghost, a shadow, if you will, if you just duck in the tall grass. I don't even know if you needed to duck in so much as you just hop in the tall grass, and immediately the stormtroopers go, where did Ma'am Solo go? What happened? Where's Kay Vess? I can't see her anymore. Oopsie daisy. Okay, I guess it's just back to my preordained pathing. I'm just going to walk from here to there, and then here to there, back over and over again, until I end up getting mercifully deleted. But I digress. The earnings report also mentioned that Assassin's Creed Shadows Claws of a Jawa DLC will release in Q2 of the fiscal year 2025, which is by the end of September 2025. The expansion will feature 10 hours of new content for players to enjoy with Naue and Yasuke. They'll enjoy is presuming quite a few things, okay? Moreover, there are some new weapons, skills, and abilities to master in the upcoming DLC. Insider Gaming exclusively reported in May that Claws of a Jawa would be targeting a September release. Yeah, we probably talked about that at the time when this news came out, but in the Assassin's Creed, in the DLC, let's just go with that. Players will embark on a new adventure with Naue and Yasuke. The adventure takes them to the island of Awaji. Sure. Located beyond Osaka Bay, players will be tasked to reclaim a lost treasure. Oh god, so you're going to be a big black guy in Japan stealing more stuff. Oh no, Assassin's Creed, what are you doing? Ubisoft, no. Hopefully this isn't lost treasure just hidden in shrines from ages gone by. Oh no. Which means securing an object from Japan or for Japan's future. However, the journey will not be as players will be relentlessly hunted by new enemies, the Sanzuku Ippa. Okay, Sanzuku Ippa is a brand new faction that will set up a variety of traps and ambush. Yeah, okay, more gameplay bullshit. And honestly, I don't know if this is going to be free. I don't really know what the release strategy for this quite expansive DLC for an otherwise dead game is going to be. But according to that same earnings report, Ubisoft claims that microtransactions in single-player games makes the experience more fun. I beg your pardon? As audiences collectively face bombs. Yeah, exactly. I touched on this with the video that's coming out tomorrow. Like I said, it was a very sprawling set of interviews that CEO Yves Guillemot had given over the past few days, and well, there are other things that needed to be honed in on in that video. And so this was brought up, but I really want to dive in on this one because, well, you got the news of the Assassin's Creed DLC, and I think it makes a lot of sense because you got a game right now, which, yeah, as you can see, seen a little bit of a bump, probably thanks to the Steam sale. But we'll see what happens in September when the DLC launches, if anybody's going to be coming back and going, actually, it's a pretty good game after all. And a move that reignited long-simmering frustrations among gamers. Ubisoft recently doubled down on its controversial monetization strategies. In the latest annual report, the company boldly claimed that microtransactions in premium single-player games enhance the experience, making it more fun by offering, get this one, optional ways to personalize avatars or progress more quickly. Remember back in the day when you were playing games in like the N64 or even, from like the NES era all the way through until about, I would say about the PS2, right before we started to get really comprehensive online integration. There was this weird thing that you could do. You could play the game and then you could just unlock skins, costumes, avatars. You could play as different characters. Hell, one of my favorite games from the PS2 era was the Return of the King tie-in game, which was fantastic stuff. It's just a total practice in the game industry that we have completely lost. Tie-in games with big budget movies, which, to be completely honest, I think it probably died for a multitude of reasons because they kind of had a bad reputation. But also, what movies are coming out right now that are ripe for video game adaptations? They're all written by spastic Fortnite enthusiasts, so what type of games could you possibly be pulling from that source material? But going back to Return of the King, that was a fantastic, sprawling game that pretty much picked up right at the climax of Two Towers, okay? And then you played all the way through. It was the first time, okay, depending on how quickly you were playing through the game, that you would actually see the mouth of Sauron, that you would see the orcs escaping, the Battle of Helm's Deep and going through the recently repositioned Huorns, a brand new area in Fangorn, where it's like, okay, I understand that orcs aren't necessarily supposed to be the most intelligent of creatures, but wouldn't you think that, okay, cool, when we came in here, we all marched, all 10,000 of us marched into the Hornburg. There were no trees behind us, but now right at the mouth of the gorge, there's this big forest right here. What happened? But one of the first levels that you can play, you're Gandalf going through chasing and just clearing out the rest of the orc scourge, as some of the trees are taking liberties, if you will. But yeah, while I can see where you might be able to squeeze in some modern day microtransactions in that, it is a classic game in every sense, in so much as the moment that you beat it with one character, beat the line, because you had the Gandalf storyline, you had the Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas storyline, which I think was the center of the path, and then you also had the Sam and Frodo, and then you had a couple of missions. It could have been Gandalf, Pippin, and Merry that were the ones that you can pick between over there. Yeah, the moment that you completed one path, then you could have those heroes cross over to the other levels, and that was fun. That was fantastic, right? Because then you could just have like overpowered Gandalf who could just go ahead and just endlessly shoot his little magical bursts, and you didn't have to worry about ammo management with like Gimli's throwing axes or Legolas or Aragorn running out of arrows. No, you could just have Gandalf with his wand going pew 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 pew, telling people that they cannot pass or shall not pass. To watch the movies enough, you think I should be able to just rip off all these quotes ad nauseum, but I digress. That would be something that would be DLC if it were to come out in today's day and age, instead of just something that, yeah, you played the game, now you unlock this thing. It's pretty cool, huh? Or they would just segment off the different paths for the monthly battle pass experience. It's just, ugh, God, I hate games with they're, made today. Every once in a while, like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you get something that is like a classic game that is a complete package, but they're few and far between. This assertion, yes, tied to the grind-heavy single-player titles like Assassin's Creed, comes amid a backdrop of Ubisoft's extensive history with such practices, while grinding mechanics often feel engineered to nudge players toward real money purchases. Exactly, yeah, because just going back to the Return of the King example, I could go to other ones too, like the Spider-Man 2 tie-in game. Like, that was another, like, it's an all-timer game right there. But yeah, you had all of those side quests that were out there, but some of those Mysterio challenges, like, I'm sure some of those collectibles could have been arbitrarily difficult, and had there been an online store at the ready, a button press away, you could have got the little tokens to level up and power up your character to get so Peter could have different combat capabilities. Man, I'm just ruining so many great games, or at least exposing the way that the industry works today and how they're just undermining and undercutting themselves. Backlash, yes, has been swift and widespread, with players and critics alike decrying it as corporate greed disguised as player empowerment. No, because it's just stupid. It doesn't even pass the original smell test. Oh, microtransactions make games more fun because then you can have a sense of player engagement. Players can go ahead and really get this sense of achievement by parting with some of their hard-earned money. I beg your pardon? Ubisoft's defense of microtransactions appears in the company's fiscal year report, where they emphasize that the golden rule for premium games is to let players enjoy the full experience without extra spending. However, they argue like add-ons like XP boosters and cosmetics elevate enjoyment for those who choose to pay. Yeah, exactly. Things that used to be unlockable, or if, yeah, okay, you had a barrier for entry when it came to, leveling up your character. You could either put in cheat codes, something that is totally bereft outside of GTA at this point in time, bereft in gaming, where you just press like your top trigger buttons, or the old Konami code, up, down, down, left, right, B8 start. That'll give you 10 lives in Contra, but in today's day and age, you go ahead and do that, and then it just pops up the microtransaction screen where, hey, you could get 10 lives for an extra $2, or at this point in time, I think they're like $5 or $10. Hell, Mortal Kombat 1 and their stupid monetization that ended up killing that game. What was it? You could get seasonal fatalities for $10. It was like, God damn it, man, what the hell is going on over there? So yeah, it's these artificial barriers that are keeping people away from wanting to engage with Ubisoft titles, and it's a reason why Ubisoft is a dying company. This is the type of stuff that Bethesda back in 2006 with the original Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion release with horse armor that they were getting dragged for. This is the type of stuff that EA has been getting away with for a long time because they aren't so overt about their greedy practices. They'll go ahead and implement something like an online pass. You got to pay, where you either buy a game brand new or you pay $10 to get access to the online features that are already on the disc and accessible. They'll just put up a gate because they think that they're entitled to your money for access to the servers for the games that you already bought and paid for. Okay. Or how Capcom, because before they came to their senses in recent years, how I think probably the chief offender of that was Street Fighter X Tekken. How there were multiple different characters. I think about as many as were in the launch roster were hidden behind a paywall. They were ready to go, all rendered inaccessible if you knew how to access them by paying for DLC. Companies have been scummy for a very long time. It's just finally gamers are starting to get wise to this stuff, and Ubisoft, well, I think they just ended up getting a little bit too greedy. They ended up digging a little bit too greedily and a little bit too deeply into your pockets, and finally they got told no. They got told they shall not pass, and as such they've become the laughingstock of the gaming industry. Couldn't happen to a better company, in my opinion. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.